everybody. Welcome back to the Baybolts channel for another edition of Quick Strike. The Lightning are on a bit of a losing streak, losing 5 of their past 7 games. My name is Mike Wax, joined as always with my co-host Jake Ricker. Jake, this is not the best time to be a Lightning fan, and I know that sounds kind of spoiled, but they have not done very well over the past couple of games.
Yeah, listen, this last little streak of games has been tough, obviously, because the Lightning, as you mentioned, have dropped 5 of the last 7, which is definitely not ideal. And it's just been frustrating because it's, a combination of things, which we'll get into. There's some problems we're having on defense and some of the forward core, and a little bit of, just not having any puck luck whatsoever to go our way. There's just a lot of things just not going our way right now, which makes these games very frustrating. And when you have a really good team, like in the Lightning, that makes it even tougher. But I have full confidence this team will get out of this funk sooner or later at some point, whether it's in the playoffs once Kucherov comes back or whether it's at the trade deadline, because maybe, fingers crossed, we make a move. Who knows? But, I know this team will get back into it. It's tough right now. No one likes to see their team lose. And right now we're just in a bit of a funk.
Yeah, no one likes to see their team lose. Absolutely right. And the Lightning, it just seems like the way that they're losing is the most frustrating part because they're getting their chances. They had 38 shots against. You could say, well, that attributes to 4 power plays for them and the fact that they pulled Vasilevsky multiple times in that third period. They had a 6-on-4 going for a little bit as well, but they're getting the pucks on the net. They're just not capitalizing on the rebound chances or those swing passes that you see from defenders like Victor Hedman and Ryan McDonough. But Jake, let's start out with a positive from tonight's game. I know that this team has struggled when it comes specifically to the right side of their defense, and especially with the injuries to Jan Ruda and Eric Chernak. But I thought Ben Thomas had a great game in his second NHL game.
Yeah, he was solid. No, not too many complaints there. He was involved on the one goal where the puck was turned over. Vasilevsky was out of his net, which, Michael, what do we have to do to get these goaltenders just stay in the net? I mean, it's seriously, even if it's a beneficial to go play the puck, just don't. Just because it never works out for us. But he was caught up on that play. But as they mentioned on the broadcast by Brian, he didn't get rattled by that. And he came back out there and put some strong shifts in. So, didn't jump off the page in any way by scoring some goals or anything like that, but he was solid. So, I can't really complain. It's the thing we need right now when we have injuries like this, which we'll get into, because I think these injuries, they may not be big on paper with Jan Ruda and Eric Chernak still out, but I think they're affecting the Lightning in a really big way right now.
Yeah, they are affecting the Lightning in a huge way. But again, another positive for us going from the defensive side to the forward side. That bottom six was actually really, really good. And I think that the highlights of the bottom six do highlight a bigger issue with the Lightning right now, which is their top six forwards. But they were really, really solid, whether it was the third line of Coleman, Gord, Goudreau, which always seems to be the engine of this team, and the newly dominant line of Matthew Joseph, Ross Colton, and Pat Maroon.
Yeah, bottom six has been great, especially that fourth line. I mean, that fourth line has been good for how long now? They've just been stellar. And again, I've said this a couple of times, but you just wonder when Mitchell Stevens does finally come back, which he's getting closer. He's been playing in Syracuse as of late. What are you going to do? Because that fourth line is so good. And Ross Colton has proved time and time again that he deserves to be on this roster. I mean, he had a beautiful goal to get the Lightning on the board and break that shutout. It was a great shot from the slot as well to get it up in that top corner. Matthew Joseph been fantastic on that fourth line. So, a lot of interesting things to look at here. We'll have a trade deadline video out in the near future where we're going to talk about some of this stuff. But, I think Lightning might need to make a move to keep that fourth line together because it is just that good and it's really good. And also, Michael, one person in the top six I thought actually had a really good game today, and that was Yanni Gourde. Didn't get on the score sheet at any point in goals, but Yanni Gourde, I think, played an excellent game today. Him and Joseph, both on the penalty kill, made a lot of great plays. Yanni Gourde's always in the game mentally, ready to go, always trying to give it his all. Very happy with his game today, despite the loss.
Yeah, and I probably should have prefaced this before I mentioned the bottom six and mentioned Gord. Everybody was really moving up and down the lineup. Cooper was not happy with the way that a lot of players were performing. A lot of them had good chances. I mostly think of Alex Sklar and Steven Stamkos. Those are the guys that really had the chances to score and break their goalless streaks. But whether it was Corpusalo or just an unlucky break, they just couldn't do it. And that is probably the biggest problem for the Lightning right now on the forward side of things. Is we mentioned the biggest problem in a good way was the plethora of options. Well, the biggest problem in a bad way is that a lot of those options are not performing as advertised right now. You look at the top six right now, probably only Braden Point is scoring in a rate that you would deem acceptable for your top six.
Yeah, no, it's been frustrating for those guys, and it's hard to be too frustrated with them because, as you mentioned, like Stamkos and Killorn, mostly Stamkos, I thought tonight had some really good opportunities and just couldn't get the puck to bounce their way. Stamkos had a couple of great shots that Corpusalo just made some top tier saves against to keep Stamkos off the board. So it's not for a lack of trying for some of these guys. They just haven't had the puck bounce their way. And that's part of the problem. Player, it's basically for the Lightning. The way I see it is, sometimes like remember when Yanni Gord, when that big goal scoring drought, then finally came out of it and was scoring a ton and playing really well. Normally this happens for guys. Guys are going to hit their droughts. But unfortunately for the Lightning, it feels like everybody in the top six has hit their goal drought at the same time. So they've just haven't had any luck going their way, which has been an issue for them. So at this point, I'm just waiting for one of those pucks to bounce the right way, get the puck in the back of the net, and then these guys can start rolling again. Cause it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when at this point. I think there's some other guys like Johnson, which we'll get to later. That's a completely another story. But guys for like Stamkos, Killorn to an extent. I'm frustrated with him. We'll get to that later too. But they're trying. So we just need a little bit of puck luck to break that scoreless streak and get that monkey off our backs and get things going again.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Yanni Gord goalless drought. I think it was 35 games last year. It was something absolutely ridiculous. And then
Hopefully that doesn't happen again.
he ended up rattling like 5 goals off in his next like 8 games. He was fantastic before the pause in the season, and it through my head during the game. I kept on wondering, like, a lot of people got angry at Gord during the 35 game goalless drought. Like, how angry are these people that like 5 of 6 in the top six are not performing as advertised? I can only imagine the blood boiling in Bolts Nation right now. However, I do want to get to the Tyler Johnson dilemma because I think that he is probably the biggest talking point with the Lightning. There is one more negative we need to get to, and that is the penalties that are being taken, at least for me. Another 5 penalties against. They had done a pretty decent job of staying out of the box. Some of those penalties were not penalties. I'm looking directly at the Tyler Johnson call where he got chicken winged and the refs decided to call it anyways. But Alex Killorn's penalty in particular, where he took an interference penalty way away from the puck and it took away a 2-on-2 opportunity. And that is the thing that is going to bite you if you're the Lightning. You're tiring out your penalty killers. Sometimes the penalty killers are the ones taking the penalties, in which case you are making people that aren't usually on the penalty kill go onto the penalty kill and have to make up for your mistakes. Just because I like Matthew Joseph on the penalty kill doesn't mean I want to see him for about 5 minutes of ice time per night. So can we please not let that happen?
Couldn't have said it better myself, Michael. Yeah, that's been, as of late, as you mentioned again, and I've said multiple times on this recap show, they've been doing really good with the penalties. It's mostly been 4 minutes at max these last couple of games, which has been awesome to see them fix that problem. Slip back a little bit tonight, but yeah, that Killorn penalty was a killer for me. That, no pun intended there. That was extremely frustrating because it looked like a chance possibly developing and then it was away from the play. There was no reason whatsoever to make that play there that Killorn did, and he gets called for it. And maybe right there that could have been the play where they get that 2-on-2 opportunity and Stamkos or Killorn snaps one in and they break their goalless streak and they get things going. Who knows? Maybe not too, but uh, there was a potential for that. And you just can't make those kind of mistakes when you're in a drought like this. Those are the things you have to do in order to break this kind of stuff. And so that was a very, very bad penalty by Killorn, which he's been known to do this season, especially is take some silly penalties. So it was frustrating to see him do that, but he did have some good chances later on in the game. But it hasn't been too bad as of late. The penalties overall, penalty kill has been good again for majority of the time again. So not too much of a concern. So hopefully they can get right back down to 4, maybe 2 minutes, ideally even as they had in the last couple of games. Will be good to go. So not a major issue, but definitely not as great tonight, especially that Killorn penalty.
Yeah, absolutely. The penalties need to get fixed. Hopefully, they get fixed very, very soon. But going from the negatives to what I'm going to call the middle of the road, I don't have anything better to call it, but that's what we're going to leave it at for now. Let's talk about Tyler Johnson because he seems to be the biggest talking point in Bolts Nation. On that first goal that was scored by someone who had not scored a goal in the NHL in 5 years, which is pretty telling in Dalpy, Zach Dalpy, not to disrespect him, but he's not really a goal scorer. And you let him get by your defense. And, Tyler Johnson just stopped skating. And I think for a lot of Lightning fans, that was it. And then in the third period, line changing, Cooper demotes Tyler Johnson to the fourth line. He actually picked up the primary assist and started that Colton goal. And he was on the ice for the Shen goal. Again, he's not a perfect player. All we ask out of Tyler Johnson is a little bit of effort. It seems like with the twice now waiver uh, part that Johnson has been on and the constant demotions, the effort has just not been there. And I'm done with it. I wanted to give him a little bit of credit, but as I'm talking, I'm just sort of done with the Tyler Johnson experiment.
Michael, I have defended Johnson a couple of times on this recap show because I think he is a good player and has a lot of potential. He's shown that in his time with the Bolts over the last couple of years. But tonight with that goal, that was basically the last straw for me because he just totally kind of, and listen, I don't know if that's the set play where they want to have a guy drop back and then two defense are supposed to pick it up. I don't know how it works, but to me, if Johnson keeps getting hard, maybe he sticks with somebody, Heaven's able to pick up another guy, and that play never happens. So it's just from a fan's perspective, it looks like, as you mentioned, there's no effort there and he doesn't care. Which maybe could be the case because the Lightning know they want to move on from him, and maybe that's a part of the problem. I don't know, but it's not been good. You've got to have a better effort, especially when you're in a slump like this. You got to be doing everything you can to get out of it. Like Yanni Gord, was doing everything. He left it all out on the ice there. Johnson has not been doing that, and I know he was good there and late in the game. Too late though. Too late for me at this point. You can't just come back and make one or two good plays after 6 or 7 bad ones and think it's all going to be okay. I have defended Johnson multiple times, but for me, it's the end of the line. I really hope maybe they can make a deal and move on from Johnson. I think he's definitely gone by the time Seattle rolls around and picks a player. But the problem is too, Michael, I just don't know if Lightning can move on from Johnson because, we saw nobody wanted to pick him up even on waivers. What team is going to trade for him if they don't want to take him up for free? So that's a part of the problem for the Lightning right now. So I think Johnson needs to understand that he needs to give his full effort. I mean, heck, man, you're in potential to win a second Stanley Cup back to back. I don't know why you wouldn't be giving your full effort, but there's definitely a problem with Johnson. I'm kind of hoping the Lightning can find a deal to make it work and clear some cap space up and maybe another roster spot, but it's a problem right now, and I just don't know how it ends. Hopefully, with Johnson picking up the effort and scoring some goals because he's got the potential. There's no doubt about that.
That's all we ask for in Bolts Nation is just a little bit of effort. And I know I mentioned earlier that a lot of people got on Yanni Gord's case for not being able to score for 35 games. He was trying every single night. I wasn't one of those people. I thought he was great. And once he got that goal, he got rolling again. The problem has always been, even with production, the effort from Tyler Johnson. So I don't know if you can fix that because they've tried so much to fix it and it just has not worked. I liked what I saw the final 10 minutes of the game, but you're right. This is not something that, I could look at and salvage the final 10 minutes because it seems like the ship has sailed. But otherwise, I would like to think that again, this game is a bit of a one-off in terms of the way that they were playing and the pucks just weren't going in. And maybe next game they can just get their game back on track. But in terms of right now, the Lightning have lost 5 of 7, and they are looking at hopefully making a move during the trade deadline.
Yeah, and the last thing I'll say, Michael, is listen. I know it's frustrating. I know it's tough, but listen, this thing could be a lot worse. The Lightning are, I highly doubt, will not miss the playoffs. That's not a big issue right now. Maybe if they continue this losing streak, then we can talk about that. But as of right now, Lightning are still one of the top teams in the league. They're still in a very comfy spot when it comes to a playoff position. And when this team is healthy and gets a guy like Kucherov back in the playoffs, they'll be a completely different team. So don't buy into this too much. It's just a big slump right now. And the key for the Lightning is they just need to break out of it. Obviously, if they can't break out of the slump, well, then that's an issue. But we know this team can play really well. We've seen them play really well before and know their full potential. So they've just got to find a way to break out of this slump. I know they will. This happened last year, as I mentioned in last week's or in last game's recap video. They went on a big losing streak last year and then won 10 straight. So they just need, just like with Yanni Gord, right? This makes the Yanni Gord situation amplified. They're in a losing streak right now. Some of these guys are in goalless streaks. They just need that break, get that luck, get going, and run with it. And who knows, could be in this next stretch, which is going to be tough, by the way, Michael. We've got another Columbus game coming up, 2 against Nashville, who's sitting in the 4th spot. They want to keep that playoff spot. And the Panthers are coming up as well. Carolina's coming up as well. So there's a lot of tough games coming out for the Lightning. So it's not going to be easy, but this team can do it. They just need to keep pushing, and hopefully we'll get there soon.
Absolutely, guys. That is going to do it for us on this edition of Quick Strikes. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Ring that bell for notifications. Comment down below. Let us know what you thought about this game, what you liked, what you didn't like. Understand that it might not be a lot of like in this time around. Also, make sure to follow us on social media: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Bay_Bolt for all your news, notes, and game recaps. We do the game recaps live on Twitter. So come hang out with us, ask questions for these videos as well. One final piece of info before we wrap it up. The Lightning have recalled Daniel Walcott, left-handed defender from the Syracuse Crunch, to the taxi squad, and we will see where that goes. We'll have the development all for you on our social media pages. But guys, for Jake Ricker, I'm Michael Wax. Thank you so much for watching. And remember, despite losing 5 of 7, the Tampa Bay Lightning are still defending Stanley Cup champions.
Go Bolts.